I'm not even gonna play around with this because this topic really hits home for me, and it is insane to me that this man, like I made in my commentary about this earlier, my advice to him was to stay offline, figure out your life, but he couldn't. And it was like I almost called it out in that commentary, just the mindset that people are going to deal with Kai, that it just, thanks for reinforcing any doubt I had that you abused your partner, any like small sliver of hope that I had that you did not do what Anya had said you did is out the window. And it was a what is with YouTubers who are obviously guilty of things, making 2 fucking hour videos, and then you followed it up with a video to critique the people who live watched your video and made commentary, because you have to control the narrative. It is the language of an abuser, Kai. And you are an abusive person, and your rebuttal, your need to repair your reputation to the court of public opinion is exactly going to be your downfall. You legit want to convince us that because you went out to buy things that Omnia had listed missing, that you're going to somehow convince a judge that you're not capable of being spiteful? Like, legit, your argument was, I have enough money. Why would I have to steal from her? Because you're trying to make the argument that people only steal based on money things. Yes, a correlation for that, because I'm adult enough to really pick apart your little argument there. Yeah, most people who steal do it because they have a need for stuff. They steal because they need to have a certain amount of money to buy certain things and to exist. But there are a subsect of humans, especially humans with money. There's been plenty of wealthy people who have klepto issues, who take things because it's just for the laws. So to act like you can go to a judge and say, I took this stuff, I bought this stuff, look at me. I was so pissed off that she accused me of taking this stuff that I went and I spent my money to show that I've got money so I wouldn't have to steal. That shit is dumb. It's childish. You are a very, very messed up individual if you think that you're going to go before a judge and say things like, well, you see, I can afford this stuff, therefore I don't need to steal. Because that legitimately is not an argument that a rational person is going to entertain. Nevertheless, a judge who has to weigh in on whether or not the fact that you not only abused your partner, but then took stuff that you have both said you gave to them, but you bought it, and then you could take it back because you bought it. There was some sort of agreement, but you bought it, so you get to take the stuff back. That's not how this works. Now all of a sudden, oh, you left the place unlocked, and it could have been somebody else, and then you contradicted that when people pointed that out. Like, if you were just telling the truth from the first place, you wouldn't be so amped. You wouldn't be so working so hard to convince people that what we're hearing isn't what we hear. There's just something with you that you have to control the situation, and you're not in this case. And I don't even have to go back to the whole thing of you damaging your reputation before this fallout. Which, if Omnia was this master planner, like you're trying to convince the world, you didn't do yourself any favors, and you're still responsible for all your actions, which I'm still not seeing any accountability on your end for, because you are trying so hard to convince us and possibly yourself that you're not the bad guy in this situation. And the thing that made me want to record this was your whole, I don't care how it looks, and I don't want to be the person whose ex killed themselves. You're making her mental health your burden. And I say this as somebody who survived abuse. That is the most fucked up thing in this situation. That is why I was like, no, I'm going to record this, because I don't care if you think I'm doing it for money or clicks and views. I don't give a fuck what you think at this point. I'm saying this as somebody who survived this, and Omnia, in any way, shape, or form you ever see this, know that I see you and I believe you, because a lot of us have gone through this. That whole idea that we're the bad guys of this scenario because of our mental health issues is so fucked up. But he made it where, oh, she killed herself, it would be a burden to me. And it's like, do you hear yourself? I am just so sick and tired of harmful people acting like they can convince the world that they are not the bad guys in this scenario. And this is why I needed to pinpoint this for people to understand why I'm pretty damn sure that Kai did all the bad things he did now. Because he has spent 2 hours just completely. This was an attack on Omnia again. He can't physically put her hands on her, on him, them. Sorry about that, y'all. I'm not even gonna edit this because I'm amped too at this point, and I am apologizing to Omnia, they, them. You are trying to convince everybody that Anya is just this bad person for 2.5 hours, my man. That is ridiculous. And I'm going to tell you this as somebody who survived abuse, I was a bad guy for the longest time in my head. To my therapist, to anybody who I talked the situation to, because I knew living with me wasn't easy. I internalized everything that happened to me. And even now, as I talked about my situation and how bad it was with him, I did not want to constantly harp on him. I brought up that my abuser targeted younger girls because it was a control issue. I kept it to the facts of the situation, something that Omnia has done. Kept it to the facts of him separating her from her family by announcing that they identify as they them and their former relationships to a conservative family, which he tried to address in this way. Well, it was her family's right to restrict the money. He's trying to get anybody on his side with his argument. But his whole thing with Omnia's family was it was their right to cut her off because she was making that YouTube money. And it's always about money with Kai. Everything's about money with this kid. But to say that her family had every right to cut her off because of the YouTube revenue they were making, and let me tell you something about people my age and older, because I don't think people understand that. And I'm not trying to throw Gen Xers under the bus, but we are old brains too. A lot of us still don't even understand streaming revenue and YouTube money. A lot of us don't even take it seriously as careers. So for you to tell me that her parents, who are probably at least boomer or Gen Xer, knew she was making enough to completely cut off her finances, and that's your fucking argument? Yeah, come on. I'm picking this apart because I've lived this life. And he started out the gate with bullshit, talking about she lied to me about the whole situation on how I had to get out. And I need people to understand. And I'm going to give you a quick story of my getting out situation, because every abuse victim that has survived their situation has their moment that they had to bend the truth to make it where things were easier. It was 2005. I had been planning with my family for months to go to my grandmother's house to learn how to deal with an infant. I had my ex convinced that that was it. I was coming back. It was only going to be a quick visit to my grandmother's house because I wanted to be the happy family that he wanted us to be. He even heard my aunt at the hospital say, "Yeah, we're getting you the fuck out of here." And when he kissed me, that final kiss, that it makes me sick to my stomach thinking about it. He knew I wasn't coming back because it was so painful. Like he was like warning me with the kiss that you better be coming back. And I was shaking. Our son was right next to me. I was this close to freedom, and I was shaking because I just needed him to believe the lie that I was coming back just long enough to get the fuck out of there, just long enough to where we could be safe and never have to deal with this again. I'm sorry. It just bothers me that Kai tries to frame it that her lying makes it where it invalidates everything he did, because to get her safety, she had to do it. And people who haven't lived this life, who don't understand what you want to do just to stay safe, what you need to do to convince them that everything's normal so that you have that chance to escape. That shit is so real that I can't even fake it. I'm not even gonna stop or pause this. I need you to know how much it fucking hurts To have somebody try to invalidate that, try to say, well, she lied about the scenario. She made it seem like things weren't going to be this way. Of course we do that. Because we know that if you found out our true intentions, if you found out that we were severing ties, you were going to make it awful. And instead of taking the time to stay offline, gather up your evidence so that you can prove your innocence to an actual judge, you came running back because this is all you have, Kai. And all you've done is thoroughly convince me that you are even worse than I had imagined. That whole 2 hours you spent nothing like somebody who suffered in the hands of your relationship with your partner, and everything as a petty, vindictive person who has to remind people of what you do in a situation. And if you gotta categorize everything you bring to a situation, you have to screenshot everything your partner did. That relationship wasn't good in the first fucking place. What even is that? But the fact that your story about what happened keeps changing. First, it was self defense and you didn't hit her. Then it was self defense, but you had to hit her to get her off you. It was, I didn't slap her. And then, oh no, I slapped her 3 times. It's like the fucking Dave Chappelle skit with Rick James. I didn't put my feet on that couch. Oh yeah, I remember putting my feet on that couch. That literally doing that. And you do that constantly with your I said this, but you can't take it this way. You do not get to control what people take from your words, man. That I think that is the biggest problem I have with you at this point. Besides the earlier point that I made in my earlier commentary about how you got to stop making this about you being a black man, because FYI, Omni is black too. And when you commit a physical altercation, the cops are allowed to be involved in this. But I think what really set the raw nerve in my body is the fact that you will put something out there. You will say something in your own words, and then based on how people interpret it, get upset. Because we're not allowed to see anything but the way you want us to see it. And that is a control issue, Kai. You are an abusive person and you need help. Whether you want to see that or not, you need help because you are trying to make everybody see your side, feel your side, understand your side. And then you're only doing that by shitting on your former partner. You couldn't tell your side of the story without completely vilifying Omnia's character. Completely bringing up old drama with the Peaches thing because you know deep down in your heart you were not a good person in this scenario. You don't want to face the real you in this scenario. And you think you can convince us and yourself that you weren't the bad guy in this scenario. And I'm sorry. By everything you just did, these videos you just did, you have convinced so many of us who have lived this, who have survived this, who have gotten away and are lucky to still be here, that you are just as bad as the people we escaped from. So congratulations for that. I don't know why you decided to do this outside. You think maybe you could salvage your online career or reputation. I don't know if you think that you're going to present that video in front of a judge. I don't know what lawyer would advise that at this point. But I'm telling you, as somebody who survived abuse, that video was horrible. That video was you hurting Omnia again. That video you telling them that I am going to damage you more. And the whole point you were trying to make about YouTube, that email of them, saying, well, the channel was deleted in a valid way. You gave us plenty of evidence that you managed her YouTube channel, even though you kept trying to downplay your role in it. But you, in your own words, have allowed a lawyer and a judge to understand that you did have access to her account. You can try to twist the words and try to make us see it in your way of, I was a manager, but I didn't control the situation. I was the manager, but I was limited. You're exhausting. You had access to Omnia's account. You just proved it in your video. You said you were the manager of the account. I don't know about you, but in my line of work, which used to be promotions, especially when somebody's managing stuff, they have access to things. You deleted her account and you know it. And you are trying to convince us and yourself that you couldn't have been that guy. And I don't know whether maybe you have personality issue. I don't know. I'm not here to diagnose you, but there is something literally wrong with you if you think the stuff that you said in that video exonerates you in any way, shape, or form. If anything, you shine the light on the how. How was it possible for somebody to just get in and delete? And then the word hack kept being used, and nobody was saying that you hacked her account. And if they were, it was Twitter trolls. Most of the commentators were saying the same thing, that this was somebody who had access to the account. Would you just help verify you had access and you had intent, which is another thing I don't think your brain is processing. Legit, you have the most intent to harm Omnia and her money, because for you, everything is about money. And the best way to harm somebody who, didn't even tell you that you were going to get out until you just knew, is by taking their form of income away. It was the last act of control over her life that you could have, and the biggest one. And then the argument about the cat and worrying about the cat's health because you want to be the good guy, Kai. You're so concerned about Minnie's health and safety and that Omnia might be hurting them, and you knew that wasn't the case. But you project and deflect your own insecurities and antics onto your partner. You knew that Minnie was fine, but you knew that you took a bunch of stuff out of the apartment that you didn't, thus leaving your partner having to go to the internet for help. And then you want to shame them for that too, which is another sign of an abusive person. I'm sorry. I know you want to defend yourself. That whole I need to repair my reputation is strong within you. But if you were really suffering the way you wanted to make us believe in your 2-hour video with your former partner, you would have kept it to that. This is the truth about abusive people. They will try to twist everything to make themselves seem like they weren't the bad guy in the scenario, like they were the ones that were the victim, and you scream that you were the victim. But you glossed over the main heart of the situation, trying to make it seem like, oh no, it was just self-defense. And then you went on nothing but character attacking, and I'm sorry, no. Everything Omnia has put out there, from telling their parents about their identity, thus cutting off a big chunk of a financial safety net that they need while they're in school. The angriness of you back and forth with people. And then the scenario with hitting them bad enough to where they're bruised. They have kept it 100 with receipts on what they've done. The only receipts you have showed us, Kai, are the stuff that you bought, because you have to show everybody you got money. You're flexing that you got all these switches, so why do I got to steal? You're petty enough to buy a JBL speaker because you saw a list that your former partner put out there, but you don't think a judge is going to go, well, if that was your reaction to just a list of things, you want me to believe you're not petty enough to take stuff to hurt them in the first place? The problem with abusive people, for real, is they hurt people because they're hurting. And when you realize it like that, it really makes you feel sorry for them. But I can't pity you at this point, Kai, because you should have stayed the fuck offline after this. You should have let this be handled out in the court of law. But you are so determined to have whatever this internet persona you have so bad that you don't care what anybody thinks unless they think on your level. And I'm sorry, unless they are already abusive types themselves, nobody is buying these stories. Like, legitimately, you are trying to convince people that the stuff that you brought and gave to your partner, like shoes and a drawing pad and everything else that you knew they loved and cherished, could just be taken back because you bought it. That's not how that works. And then you want us to believe that you only hit them in self defense because, in your words, and this is really why I decided to sit before the camera, it would be more upsetting to you for them to take their lives because it's all about you and how you would feel in that situation, and not the fact that your partner was in so much pain that they don't want to be here anymore. It's always about you, isn't it, Kai? It was never about Amnia's feelings of self-worth or selflessness. It was never about her pain. It's always about what you're going through. You are a very narcissistic person. You are a very angry person. It comes out in your videos. You are a very elitist person. Everything is about money with you. Everything is about, I can afford this, so why would I do that? Ignoring the fact that theft has a lot of layers to it. Sometimes people steal just because. But you've already established a pattern of spitefulness even before this fallout, that a lot of us who were fans of you, because I said in my earlier commentary, I was really liking you in Omnia. I honestly thought YouTube needs more creators like this until you start to listen. And this whole idea of, I could put something out there, I could say something, but if people don't take it the way I want them to take it, they're wrong, and I'm going to keep arguing my point until you see it my way. That is exhausting. You are an exhausting person, and that is an abuser in a nutshell. You exhaust everybody's mental energy. So it's not that far of a step for me to imagine what life with you was like. Constantly having to be right. Going off the deep end when things weren't taken the way you wanted them taken. And then taking it to a physical level. But no, you had to defend yourself. No. Let me get ready to wrap this up because I actually have gaming that I want to do to try to relax my mind after this. But it was just fucking ridiculous hearing that video. And I did not click directly on Kai's video because I don't want to give him views, just like the other abusive asshole of the moment, Creepshow Art. I feel like the two of them are like of the same ilk. That whole, I am going to prove I'm not a bad guy by completely vilifying the person that I victimized for years. And it's disgusting. It is disgusting watching him completely try to turn Amnia into the bad guy in this scenario when apparently he's the victim. No. I say this to anybody who's in this situation because I know it's hard. I know escaping abuse is hard. I know unpacking your role in it, but it is not your fault when you get to that point where getting out is the only way to save yourself. And it is not only your fault when the relationship is bad. Because most of us understand our roles when the relationship goes sour, but it's always the really abusive person that tries to act like they're completely innocent and they had no role in the bad in this situation. And that is how Kai comes across. And that's why I need you to understand that is the language of an abuser, and he is an abusive person. And Amnia, I am so sorry that you went through this. It hurts my heart. No one should have to deal with a partner that is this volatile, this spiteful, this harmful, this self-centered in this situation. I'm not even asking Kai to humble himself because I know that's impossible. But I just wish he would just self-reflect a bit, because it's real easy to try to paint yourself as the savior in this situation, that you were just trying to help them through whatever they were going through, and you're not. You just look worse. But like I said, I'm gonna wrap this up, go relax, game with my friends, and try to remind myself that for every Kai Weiss, there are good people out there. You can go from an abusive relationship to a good relationship, but it takes time. It takes working on yourself, and it takes knowing that You are going to probably deal with this, especially since this is such a public thing for a while. So please give Omnia love if you can. They have to rebuild their whole entire thing because of this shit. And it's crazy to me. It's crazy that he decided to do this and character attack yet again. So that's it. See y'all guys.